Scarlett and Alan have both been saying they're on different freelance combination courses with sort of arts and travel. Titan and Parker will help you with any technical problems you've got about sitting down or adjusting the volume or other controls. Hi Dale. Kick off in a couple of minutes. It's interesting for me to know where which courses you're on if you're undertaking the LSJ course, and I don't know if you've had a chance to meet any of the other people in the room, so feel free to introduce yourself and tell us sort of why you're here and what stage you're at with the particular course. Okay, well, while Titan works with Felix on sound and any of the others of you late arrivals that are just getting sorted out and have problems moving around, we'll get started. But in the meantime, thanks, sort of Marcia, Molly, and Shazababes for letting us know where you are on the different courses. What we wanted to have a chat about tonight really was journalism and the law, and how much you know about the understand about what's acceptable and unacceptable from a writing point of view. I guess that the starting point for most of us coming into the business is that we have a fairly good idea of what's expected of us in terms of day-to-day behaviour, but we might be a little bit less familiar with any problems that we might encounter when we're actually putting pen to paper or getting to the keyboard and starting writing. I'm sure that you've come across terms like libel and slander and contempt of court and breach of copyright, but if those terms don't mean anything to you, then obviously there's a concern about whether your work can be published safely or not, and that applies whether you're working for newspapers, magazines, radio, TV, or the internet. And it obviously applies most of all to any reporter covering live breaking news stories, because as you'll be familiar, the papers are dealing with crime and court stories on a daily basis. So, as aspiring journalists, I think especially those who perhaps have cut their teeth on student papers and internet websites, sometimes presume that they can pretty much write what they say. We know that free speech is a powerful freedom in a democratic society, but that doesn't quite mean that anything goes, and the main purpose of tonight's sort of get-together is to just have a chat about the balancing act, really, between that very important freedom of expression that we do have as writers, and those laws which restrict what we can write. Oh, excuse me, sorry. Probably hear phones going off in the background here. Especially with regard to protecting other people's rights. For example, the right to a fair trial. I mean, it seems logical that we should have a fair degree of freedom about what we write, but not if that impinges on somebody's right to justice. Similarly, you'll be aware probably of recent cases relating to privacy and the individual's right to some kind of privacy in their domestic life. Equally, freedom of speech doesn't extend to writing lies about somebody that can damage their reputation, and that's why there are laws relating to libel and slander in terms of protecting individuals from having something false and malicious written about them, which destroys their reputation in the eyes of right-thinking people. So there are two reasons really why journalists need to have a detailed working knowledge of the law. One is so that we know our rights, how far we can safely go with a story without breaking the law. I mean, it's important that we are protect our freedom to write the truth, and therefore we obviously want to know. We want to publish the full story, we want to publish facts, and we want to give as much information as possible. So certainly we should be aware of our freedoms, of what we're, meetings that we're permitted to visit, when we're able to go to court and council meetings, and exactly what is meant by freedom of expression and how much we can protect that. We need to recognise when a story is in the public interest and know what defences we've got in the event of a libel or contempt case. But of course the other point is that we should be able to recognise legal pitfalls and abide by any legal restrictions that are imposed on us. So what are the main restrictions? Well, perhaps the most important, just to start off with, and at this point I'll list a few of the key areas that we ought to be aware of, and as I mentioned at the start, you can ask questions at any stage and I'll pick them up when we get a moment. So defamation, first of all. Are we damaging somebody's reputation, a person's or a company's reputation? Perhaps the most important and most costly danger that we should be aware of as writers. Contempt of court, that is. Particularly, are we posing a substantial risk of serious prejudice to legal proceedings? In other words, are we threatening to prejudice somebody's right to a fair trial? There are a number of reporting restrictions which relate to coverage of the courts, the identification of children and young people, for example, or victims of sexual offences. And although those are of particular interest, say, to working reporters covering the courts on a daily basis, it's useful, even as a features writer or web writer, just to be aware of how they impinge on any stories that you might be tackling. Some of you who are already working on the web might be aware of the dangers of copyright and the question of whether we're stealing somebody's original work. And perhaps at an extreme level, also, I don't think there's a country in the world that doesn't have some form of protection for national security. So the Official Secrets Act in this country, are we revealing information that could pose a threat to national security? I think the two most important areas for any working journalist are defamation and contempt. Equally important but very different, both in terms of which areas of the law they relate to and the type of stories that they affected. I think the title will sort out Katerina, and anybody else that's having problems, hopefully just type a query to Titan and he'll sort you out. So the libel laws, the law of defamation, exists to protect individuals from unjustified attack.